So, speaking of that, here you are, fully cooked, trans man, very binary, very butch, and you're living out here in the woods. What brought you out here? I mean, why do you live out here? I mean, it's kind of a dream, but you specifically, what brought you out here?
I needed peace.
Yeah.
From the modern world.
Okay.
Because I cannot stand the sound of traffic. I can't stand the sound of the crush of humanity anymore.
Okay. Yeah. I think a lot of people can identify with that.
Yeah, and part of that is, I spent a good deal of my adult life in the woods working.
Yeah.
I wasn't stuck in an office job, listening to the photocopier in the next room.
Sure.
And
some of those office jobs are good paying jobs, though.
True. So I got paid to hike around the woods.
There you go.
And camp.
Yeah. And see where the good mushrooms are.
Right.
Yeah.
And where all the huckleberry honey holes were.
Yeah. I used to know a lady who did a lot of geological work in Minnesota, and she said she knew where all the ditchweed was. This was before legalization and medical marijuana.
And I also knew where all the illegal grows were, because that was before medical marijuana and before rec.
Oh, you got to be really careful about those.
Yeah, basically, if we ran into them, we were to take a quick GPS, back off, and then call our law enforcement division.
Very, very scary. Lots of booby traps and all kinds of stuff going on there. Yep.
But it was almost always in the backwoods where we operated.
Yeah. A lot of hikers, on the West Coast, Eugene and up into the hills of Oregon. You really had to watch out for that. Yeah. And I'm not against marijuana and all that stuff, but the illegal grows, what they do is they ruin the forest. They ruin the waterways, and they're very destructive.
And they leave lots and lots and lots and lots of garbage.
Yeah, lots of garbage. So it's not good. It's not like I'm against marijuana. I'm against these nasty illegal grow situations, which ruin our public lands for everybody. And they sometimes encroach on private land, like land like yours, and ranchers and stuff. People have to constantly kind of survey their lands, make sure their animals aren't poisoned.
Yeah. But anyway, I got paid to hike and camp, and occasionally, if my travels, from my assignments took me near one, I got to fish.
Yeah.
And I got paid to have fun.
Awesome. Take a little snooze every once in a while.
Not during the workday, because our GPS was monitored.
Oh, I see. I would take a little snooze every once in a while when we were doing geology work, but we weren't being paid.
But
it's when we were still students.
Yeah. So see if our GPS basically went silent for too long. We usually got a chirp on the radio, said, making sure everything was all right.
Okay, yeah.
And a couple of times it was because we were up in an area and a really, really gnarly thunderstorm came through.
Sure.
So, and we were probably 4 miles from the truck, so we just had to hunker down where we were and, pray that we didn't get hit.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Yeah, and even if you're not right under that that rainstorm, there's lightning strikes that can happen all over there. Yeah. I was just looking at a map of the interior of Alaska, of some storms that had went by, and the lightning strikes were actually outside of the area where there was rain. Yeah.
What was it, a week ago? I was outside, pottying the puppy, and the storm was up on the mountain to the north of here, and moving east, and it was clear sky over the top of me, and sunny and stuff, and lightning actually hit my wellhead.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious! Did that knock anything out here?
No.
Oh wow.
The wellhead is grounded.
Okay. I don't know anything about electricity.
My
obviously.
my wellhead is affectionately known as Old Sparky.
Okay.
It gets hit at least twice a year.
Okay, stay away from Old Sparky.
Yeah. But the mountain that the storm was over is 3.5 miles away.
Okay. All right.
So.
Wow. So you have to really be careful about that.
Yeah.
So, do you monitor the weather a lot when you're up
yes.
there? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
This time of year, I monitor it for heat, so that way
Yeah.
I know if I need to water the garden extra,
Yeah.
and also, for wind plus heat, so that way I'm more cognizant of potential sparks that could, set the whole neighborhood on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Fairbanks, I tried to get into the habit of monitoring weather, but I was really bad at it. But you got to do that there because sometimes it just gets really cold.
Yeah.
And you just have to prepare a lot better on those days. And I just wouldn't. And well, then all of a sudden here I was trying to pour fuel at -40 outside, and that is not a good situation to be in.
Been there, done that.
No. Yeah, and it's spilling on you and you're freezing. Oh,
And you can't bend your fingers to shut off the valve.
no, and if y'all have ever gotten fuel on your hands, even if you have gloves, when it's really cold out, it is really painful. It is super painful. Anyway, so here you are out in the woods and you're trans man. You're much more private in your older years, though. How's that? How's that working?
So far so good. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a few neighbors that do know, like the whole story.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're totally cool.
Yeah, cool. Would you say that they're conservative? Because it's a pretty conservative area.
The one is kind of hard to read. I don't know if she's conservative or liberal or
Just
somewhere in the middle.
Live and let live.
Yeah, she's Canadian.
Okay.
So definitely hard to read.
Okay.
As far as her political views. The other one is like super, super liberal.
Okay. And did you come out to them? How did they know?
Somebody at one of the local kind of neighborhood hangouts clocked me.
Oh. How did they clock you?
She's very well versed in the community.
Okay. Has she dated trans men or something?
I think so. I don't know the whole story.
Okay. Did she gossip or something? Or?
I think so.
That is not a fucking ally, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're gossiping about trans people and they're not out, fuck you. Fuck you.
It was either chit chatting with somebody else who is either a part of the community or whatnot. That, kitchen gossip kind of thing.
Yeah.
And somebody else overheard.
Right. Yeah. That's not your information to share.
No.
Goodness gracious.
And
I'm so sorry that happened because I can tell that privacy is really a thing for you. Yeah.
And anyway, the one neighbor at the end of the road who is, totally liberal or whatnot, it was her husband, who happens to be very conservative, is the one who overheard the continuation of said gossip.
Sure.
And then brought it up to her. And, she approached me individually and said, hey, this is what's going around.
So she was kind of warning you.
Right.
Yeah. Safeguarding you a little bit.
Yeah.
Good.
And to be honest, I don't know who exactly knows, other than those two. Those two I know for certain because they were standing in my own kitchen, when something was brought up.
Yeah.
But so I don't know who else may have either heard third, fourth, fifth hand, whatnot. That the other neighbors do know that I have very liberal leanings and that I am very LGBT friendly, because of the friends that have come here to live with me.
Okay.
They're very out lesbians.
Okay, great. Great. So you're creating like community around here.
Right. And they're all just like, may not agree with all that, but you're part of the mountain. You have a problem, you call us, we'll come help.
So your conservative neighbors are telling you that.
Right.
That you're cool and you're part of the community.
Right.
Well, and you were telling me too that sometimes you help them with their problems around here.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that.
Like I've had neighbors call me, because I'm one of the few people up here who actually hunts.
Yeah. And you're quite a marksman. Yeah.
And
I can tell by the skulls and the racks around here. I mean, seriously. And your larder. I mean, yeah.
So just about everybody up here has a gun, but most of them are limited to a sidearm.
Like a 44 or something.
Yeah, or 45 is a very common one, or a 10 millimeter, because those are the two that could potentially take down a grizzly if necessary.
Yeah. Usually in Alaska, they'll wear something like that in a chest holster because it's easy access.
Yeah.
Plus a rifle.
Yeah. But most don't have rifles. They've got a
Okay.
sidearm of some kind.
Yeah.
So if they need to take down a predator or have an issue with a predator or 2 or 3 or 10, they don't have a means to take care of it. But since I'm a hunter, I also have a rifle.
Yeah.
So I can do more of a long range type of action to push off a predator or deal with it if it's a big problem.
Okay. So you don't have to do a lot of stalking then. You could do it from more of a distance.
Yeah, I've sat up on the neighbors on the top of the neighbor's house because there were coyotes coming through and were breaking into the chicken coop and just causing all sorts of havoc. So I sat
Coyotes.
up. So it was a cloudy day. So I sat up on the roof of the house and I don't like killing them.
Yes.
But I took out 2 and they stopped coming.
Yeah. Right.
So I was there to
Well,
help.
they're really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and after that they stopped coming and, the neighbor's chickens, which is a food source for them.
Right.
It was safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially right now, there's like shortages of eggs and, bird flu is going through and decimating.
Yeah. That went through here last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, some neighbors.
It's livestock.
Yeah. And some neighbors down at the end, they had, a mountain lion stalking their horse.
Oh no. No.
And so, I went and pushed it off. And then there was another situation where there was a big male coyote that kept coming in and harassing the horse too.
Okay.
And I pushed him off.
How do you do that? Just push a predator off?
You basically harass and chase. Cougars, generally, you have to chase them and tree them.
Okay. Okay.
And it's basically harass them out of their current territory.
Sure.
So a cougar is usually, quite a chase.
Yeah.
Coyotes, generally, you just need to push them into the next pack's territory.
Yeah. They're a little bit, I don't mean to say that they're lazy, but they're efficient. They're like, if this is too much trouble, I'm out of here.
Right.
There's better places to be. Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Yeah.
That's usually why, if you have one that shows up in your yard going after your cat and you shoot one, the rest of them will give you a very wide berth.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I sometimes hear them at night in Fairbanks. I hear the little ones yipping.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're wolves or coyotes. We have both.
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the dividing line right there for the northern reaches of the coyote.
Yeah. It's pretty much the end of them because it's too cold. But I hear them sometimes at night, and I'm like, I wonder what trouble they're causing in the neighborhood because there's a lot of people who keep chickens and ducks and geese and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, if they're making noise, it's not a problem. That's usually just the pack communicating.
Okay.
And or saying, hey, gather up. We're going hunting. It's when they get quiet.
Okay. Yeah.
When they're causing problems.
Okay. Yeah, and then people have stray dogs too. They cause as much trouble. I mean, really. Yeah, I think that my first flock was killed mostly. I think it was stray dogs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people just let their dogs out, or they just run off, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Or the old man down the street dies, and his dog just gets loose and is left loose.
That's something too. Yeah, there's some dogs that you can tell are just out there for a really long time because they are very unkempt and they're and desperate. Yeah. And desperate. Yeah, totally. Do you ever have that problem up here? Like wild dogs?
Not necessarily.
Or feral?
Yeah, I mean, there was a problem a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Where there was 3 dogs that were coming in off the creek.
Yeah.
And we're fairly certain that their owner was in jail.
Okay. Yeah.
But
that can be an issue too.
But they kept coming around, and two of the dogs, everybody's fairly certain that they're hybrids of some kind.
Oh, like wolf or...
Yeah, because they are huge, number one. They're also very, very aggressive.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't give no shits.
Right, right. Yeah, I've been around some mixed dog and wolf, mixed canids like that, and I don't trust them. They were less like pets than, just like regular dogs. Yeah, there was something more to them. Yeah.
But those two were nothing but trouble, and they ran with a husky that I encountered alone one time down on the corner. It was alone, and I tried to, because it was wearing a collar, so I was trying to get a hold of the collar so I could get it down to the shelter or whatever. And thankfully, I was wearing a thick coat and gloves. It tried to maul my arm.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
do you ever work with Fish and Game, or do you have to ever call them in, like if there's rabies or something like that?
Not for rabies, but I have called them for various things. Like a few years ago, a young buck, he was probably a yearling, maybe a 2-year-old.
Okay.
Came limping up here with a shattered shoulder. He had obviously tangled with a vehicle.
Oh, okay.
But he managed to limp his way up here. And,
yeah, you gave me lots of warnings when I drove up here. Yeah. About deer and moose.
Yeah, and I called our local Fish and Game warden, and I was like, hey, I got this deer. He's pretty, he's hurt right now. He's laying in the yard, resting right next to the water source I have. I'm just like, do you want to come up and deal with him?
Yeah.
He's just like, well, I'm on the opposite side of the county.
Okay.
It's obviously he's in distress.
Okay.
He's just like, so if he's like, I know you were a hunter because he's checked my license himself.
Yes.
He's like, can you put him down humanely?
Yes. So a humane dispatch, basically. Yeah.
And
because then it becomes a legal issue. Like if you were to just do it of your own accord, you could be.
I could lose my license.
Yeah, it could be like poaching.
Yeah,
you could be accused of that. Yeah.
So he's just like, and as soon as you do it, send me pictures so I know where your shot was. Yeah. So that way, when I examine, if I find any other bullet holes.
Yeah.
I can determine what was yours and what may have been a poaching from another person.
Right. Or maybe a hunter that didn't go after that got shot and then didn't go after for the kill.
Yeah. Well, this was spring, so there is no deer season in spring.
Yeah. Right.
So, so he just wanted to make sure, so that way, in examining the carcass, if he found another bullet hole, he could determine which one was mine and which one was not. So that's my usual interaction with them. And we had a bear cub that became orphaned.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd seen him around with his mama, and he has a little kind of white streak right here. So he stood out. He wasn't like, all black cub like every other one.
Sure.
But so he had something that made him stand out.
Yeah.
And he would come around with his mama, and they'd be out, like digging up grubs and whatnot on the back trail. Mm-hmm. And I'd watch him every morning.
Were they like tearing apart trees, like old fallen trees? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And old stumps. And sometimes, like pawing at one of the dirt piles and stuff to get at the ants.
Okay. They eat ants.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, well, the eggs.
Okay.
I'll go after the eggs.
Oh. Is it like a big mass of eggs?
Not necessarily a mass, but they'll be very close. So one lick and you can pick up 100 kind of thing.
Okay. Caviar.
Basically. So I'd see them out there pretty much every morning.
Sure.
And it was roughly the last week of bear season. And, I'd heard a couple of shots to the east, up in the state land. And, it was a fairly high-powered rifle based on sound.
So would that be at a distance then? Would they be shooting from a long distance?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I've
just
seen,
a big round then?
Yeah, just a,
okay.
A shell about like,
a small missile.
Essentially. Well, there's guys around here who think it's appropriate to hunt a white-tailed deer with a 300 mag rifle. I mean, you
it's just going to go through it and then a couple of trees, right? Or something.
It's instant hamburger.
Sure.
But I could tell by sound that it was a good sized round,
okay.
Along the lines of,
sure.
of a 300 mag. And the next morning, I look out and Baby Bear is here alone.
Oh no!
And crying.
Oh no!
So I gave it a couple of days. I'm just like, maybe Mama Bear's just off the trail where I can't see her. And he's just crying, because maybe he wants a milkshake. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I give it a few days and still no mom.
Mm-hmm.
And Baby Bear is basically just hanging out up on the corner. And finally I call Fish and Game. I said, hey, I think I've got a orphan cub here. He's hanging out near the house.
Yeah.
I have not seen mom in over a week.
Why do you think the baby bear was here?
Probably because they spent so much time here.
It was just a familiar game trail.
It was familiar.
Okay.
And probably felt safe.
Okay.
Because it up on that part of the trail, it's fairly open, so you can see quite a bit. It's not like something can sneak up on you.
Sure.
So it's probably that was where Baby Bear remembered that they always visited every day. Mm-hmm. So if mom was coming back, that she would likely come there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Poor baby.
Yeah, and Fish and Game's just like we let nature take its course.
Oh.
Now, if it was a grizzly cub, we'd come get it.
Okay.
Since
something endangered.
Right.
Okay.
But it's near as I can tell. It's hard because sometimes markings don't make it to adulthood.
Yeah.
As near as I can tell, the young, 2-year-old I've got around here is the baby bear.
Good.
Because we'll hang around up on that corner.
Okay, good.
So
I like that. Thank you so much for telling that story.
So
that's great.
Yeah. So this is kind of its safe zone.
Yeah. Cool. It's almost like your bear a little bit. So that's great. You get along fairly well with your neighbors. Mm-hmm. That's terrible that somebody violated your privacy. I mean, I'm just so mad at that.
Yeah.
You came here for privacy, and then somebody kind of immediately violated that.
Yeah, and I had literally been here a month.
Yeah. Oh, that's so disgusting. And they probably think that there's some sort of connection with them and the trans community and, some sort of allyship.
Yeah.
That's such bullshit.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that.
But, I mean, like I said, nothing negative came out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was on high alert for weeks afterwards. I slept, with a pistol under my pillow.
Right. With the political climate the way it's been, yeah, I don't blame you at all. Yeah.
But yeah, nothing came, negative came out of it.
Yeah.
And nobody says anything to me in town.
Yeah. Yeah, great. And then like we were just saying, some of your neighbors do rely on you. You were saying too that this is almost like a retirement community for some people coming down from Alaska.
Yeah. And
I kind of joked, they probably couldn't afford Homer or Palmer because those places have been so gentrified. Mm-hmm. So they come down here to the Rockies and set up for the the last years of their lives. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that probably some of your neighbors are a little bit older and.
Yeah, there's some that are we'll just say retirement age and older.
Sure.
There's some that are not.
Yeah.
But like usually the ones that come down from Alaska, they're usually retirement age, and they come down here because the climate is slightly milder.
Slightly, yeah.
emphasis on slight.
Yeah. Well, and there's also just more stuff here. You're on the road system, so you can go places.
And it's also closer to medical.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I do know of a couple of folks who live a mile or so from here. They moved here because I think it was the wife developed some sort of heart condition, so she needed to be close enough to a hospital.
Yeah. And for you folks that don't know, even in the big cities, in Alaska, like Anchorage, Juneau, Fairbanks, even in those places, we do have hospitals, but we don't have experts. We don't have the specialists as much as they do down here in the lower 48. So what happens is people in Alaska, even though they can some people can't even access medical care. There's in the villages, there's sometimes only a CNA who is a certified nursing assistant.
Or if you're lucky,
that is
a nurse.
Yeah, or a nurse, but a nurse is a very high level, medical professional.
I'm talking like LPN as opposed to RN.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, that's a huge step up from a CNA who, has a few weeks of training. So it's a really quite a situation in Alaska. We need a lot of medical professionals up there. So what people do is they come down here to the lower 48, sometimes for primary care as well as specialist care. So that makes sense that you'd have a lot of retirees coming here because it's similar, but then they can access more stuff. Yeah, that's cool.
Because I don't think, considering the current real estate market, I don't think it's cheaper here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And, in moving down here, they lose any benefits they might get for being a resident of Alaska.
Yeah, there's not too much. I mean, there's our PFD, which is the permanent fund dividend. But, that's not very much.
Yeah.
That's not very much, really.
So.
That does help people out who are more off-grid, though, who don't have traditional what we would call traditional now work that is for cash, but the traditional economy there is, of course, subsistence. So if they're doing subsistence or partial subsistence, that payment once a year is actually really helpful for them.
Yeah, that's how they pay for fuel for their boat.
That's right.
Or for their snow machine.
That's right. Or repairs to the snow machine or whatever, or, the kids' dental work, whatever needs to happen, Yeah, so that's actually a really good program. And it's actually people who study UBI who maybe want to expand that to other places. They actually study that to see the good that it does. So let's have UBI. That's what I think.
Yeah.
It would be great if people, this has nothing to do with my guest at the moment, but wouldn't it be great if we had just like people had stuff like taken care of and they could not worry. We're in such a rich country that I think that's possible.
Yeah, universal basic income, nationalized health care. Yes. So that way it doesn't matter whether you're in Arkansas or in Alaska, you have the access to the same care. Yeah. The same benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, and it should be a right. We should, be able to access healthcare. It's a big worry for a lot of people. I know for me, I defer healthcare all the time because I'm like, well, how am I going to pay for it?
Yeah, because even if it's on the marketplace, it's supposed to be affordable, but it hasn't been affordable in years.
No, not at all. We took another little break. There's a puppy in the house with how big is that bladder?
About the size of a walnut.
Okay, all right, so pretty small. So we were talking a little bit about politics, and I was wondering if you could talk about your own personal politics, like where you situate yourself. Like you seem to have, this is just my take, somewhere between liberal and leftist. Like you maybe are kind of bouncing between those a little bit, depending on the situation you're in. Would that be an accurate description?
I would probably place myself as kind of a liberal.
Okay.
I'm probably a touch on the centrist side to some degree because,
but you do have some leftist ideas.
Yes.
In there. Yes.
But as far
so you're a flexible liberal, liberal flexible.
Obviously, LGBT,
Yeah.
et cetera rights, women's rights, and stuff that I am absolutely.
And universal health care and maybe UBI.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah. I
Those
think,
are really large justice issues.
yeah, they are. As well as I know this country has race problems, racial
Oh,
equality.
yeah. Well, you've seen it so directly.
Oh, yeah.
In Colorado,
Yeah.
definitely.
And even up here,
Yeah.
it's like, an African American gentleman walked into one of the local hangouts, and because he was tubing with some friends down the river, and
As a tourist.
yeah, and the whole place went dead silent.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I can't even imagine like the terror that somebody like that would feel, walking into a situation like that. That would be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, between myself and one of the other folks that was there, we kind of was like, hey, how's it going? How's the river? How's the flow?
Awesome.
Just kind of break the tension,
Yeah.
and kind of get everybody else.
Well, I got to say that sort of everyday activism is really important. It can just be those little, they're seemingly little things, but you broke something there and you made somebody feel more welcome.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very stark thing. I hadn't been here real long at that point, but that was pretty,
Yeah.
in your face.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like we were saying earlier, there's some places in the Rocky Mountain West that have had some really bad problems
Yeah.
with racism. And when you get into that extreme far right wing, you're kind of against everybody who's not you.
Yeah.
And it's not a way to help the world, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more on the help the world part. You seem like you're more on that side as well.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
My big thing is, it's like I'm considered kind of the oddball up here.
Okay, yeah.
Because
I can imagine.
I use guns. I enjoy my guns, but for me they are purely a tool.
Okay. So you're not an ammosexual?
Oh no! I don't subscribe to Ammunition Weekly.
Yeah. I really think that's a thing. Like it's a joke, but I think it's a thing.
It
actually.
is.
Yeah.
The guys who pose in their underwear with their ARs and stuff. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's like those nerds that are pretending they're Jedis with their sword. It's like that same kind of thing, but they have arrows or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So but I see guns as a tool.
Yeah.
A very deadly tool if
Yeah.
used the wrong way, but for me it's a tool. It's how I put meat in the freezer.
Right.
It's how I protect myself and my neighbors.
Right. Yeah. So you're on the liberal side, and then you have some. It sounds like you have a kind of a mix of views.
It's a very eclectic view.
Yeah. And you get to do that. You get to do that. So thinking about kind of like regional politics as it concerns like trans people, what do you think about that's going on? Because there's a real mixed bag.
There is.
Yeah.
Some states are doing it well. Like Washington State has laws in place that protect trans folk.
Right.
Oregon, I believe, still has theirs in place.
Yeah.
Colorado has theirs in place.
Yeah. But then there's the secessionist movement and all kinds of weird stuff going on.
Yeah, the greater Idaho movement, as it's turned out here.
Or the Jefferson State.
Yeah.
That's been going on a while.
Yeah, because that pulls in parts of Northern California too.
Yeah.
But the greater Idaho is just eastern Oregon and Idaho. But the problem is there are parts of Idaho that think more like Washington.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's
there's a lot of queer and trans people there.
yeah. So
Boise, Idaho.
Boise is a good one. There's also Coeur d'Alene and Sandpoint in the north that also have their own pride.
Right.
They also are fairly, Coeur d'Alene a little less so. I know Sandpoint is more liberal.
Yeah.
The city is actually fully democratic.
Yeah, I know that some Coeur d'Alene activists really pushed against the neo-Nazis that were up here.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, like by Hayden Lake and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Hayden is just outside of Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. The politics here in the Northern Rockies.
Yeah.
And I'll include everything from Montana through to the coast.
Yeah.
And Wyoming, and we'll pull in Colorado too.
Yeah.
It's very.
Colorado is very blue now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a gay governor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's in the rural sections, it tends to be very conservative.
Sure.
In the
but not always.
But not always. But whenever you end up with a larger town, especially if it has some sort of tourist,
or a university,
or a university, and whatnot, it tends to go a little more liberal. It at the very least goes purple.
Sure.
So, and then there's states like Montana which seem to be confused. It's like they pass certain things in certain places that are supportive of women's rights or supportive of LGBT, and then in other aspects, they're basically telling us to fuck off.
Yeah, right. Some of these Rocky Mountain areas too were the first to give women the right to vote. Right. Right.
Wyoming.
Yeah, exactly. But then, what are we doing now out here? We're taking away women's rights.
Yeah, it's very odd. Yeah, it's very odd, and the just the how it changes. And I mean, even in my lifetime, just watching how it's changed, because when I was growing up in Colorado, it was a very reddish purple.
Okay.
And then it started getting a little more blue, little more blue, and then it went straight blue.
Sure. I call that the REI crowd.
A lot of people blame it on Boulder and Vail,
or Californians moving in.
Because it did kind of coincide with the California rush.
Yeah, but people can move anywhere in this country. People have the right to do that. Just because you grew up in California doesn't mean you need to stay there. Just because you grew up in Colorado doesn't mean you need to stay there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, up in this part of the Rockies, we're starting to see a big influx of Californians as well.
Sure.
Because they're wanting to escape the cities, and they're wanting to get farther away from the yearly fires.
Sure.
I mean, we have fires up here, but it's not like a every year thing.
Yeah. And, some of those places, they're just very crowded, and et cetera.
And the taxes are through the roof, so they come someplace cheaper.
But also those taxes give them a lot of benefits oftentimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not against taxes at all. In fact, if we collect taxes, I think we should use them better than we use them now.
Yes. Basically get rid of the glut in government,
or the crony capitalism.
There's that too. Yeah, it's like, yes, we do need some kind of secret R&D, so that way we can develop the next space whatever for Russia.
But do we need to bail out the banks and the airlines again?
No.
Or give out those PPP loans?
No. Not unless it is a true small business.
Okay. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But the true small businesses did not get those loans.
Yeah.
They did not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it should have gone to the mom and pop bakery down the corner.
I'm so pissed at that, actually, because traveling around, I tried to go to those places, the little barbecue places and the little bakeries, and they were closed.
But I mean, those should have gone to the mom and pop restaurant down on the corner of the bakery, or
but it didn't.
Yeah,
it's fucked up.
cut the fat out of the government budget. It's like, bring it down to what we actually need to spend money on.
Well,
like roads,
I would like roads, education.
Mm-hmm.
We need in Alaska. They keep trying to cut education.
They're
to
doing
the bone.
Yeah, they're doing it around here too.
It's so terrible because we look at these states where this is happening, and we're at the lowest level of education. And I mean, what's the plan there? We want an ignorant population that's uneducated. That doesn't sound right.
Well, I mean, stupid people are easy to fool.
Yeah.
It's like one of the local schools here. I gotta look at some kid's workbook for 5th grade, and I'm just like, I learned this stuff in kindergarten and 1st grade.
Right, yeah.
It's like, what the heck is going on? And I mean, even years ago, I did a girl who she graduated high school like I think 11 years after I did.
Okay.
And the things she learned as a senior in high school was stuff I learned in middle school.
Okay. Yeah.
And she was considered top of her class.
Okay, so we've kind of lowered some standards.
Yeah,
there.
it's like coming down. They've dumbed it down.
Yeah. So pull the money or funnel it out to charter schools, which are usually religious schools, frankly, and then defund the public schools. So then we have to lower the standards because the educational level of our students is actually decreasing because there's not enough teachers, there's not enough help.
It's not that there aren't enough teachers. There's plenty of them out there. The problem is they're off doing other things that actually pay them. Okay. Because our teachers get X amount of dollars.
Well, a lot of them do gig work.
Yeah, but they get X amount of dollars per month. For their salary. And that is technically up to I think 42 hours per week.
Sure.
It varies a little bit state to state,
Sure.
but that's kind of the average. When in actuality, they're working more than 100 hours per week.
Oh, yeah.
Once you figure in grading papers, actually coming up with the tests.
Yeah. Student conferences, grading.
Yeah.
Continuing education, dealing with their principal, coming up with curricula. My parents were teachers. I know all about this. Yeah. It's a full-time plus another full-time job, basically.
So, you're asking teachers to essentially work for pennies.
Yeah.
And then expecting them to also buy their supplies.
Yes.
Which is complete bullshit.
And then they take care of kids by taking money out of their own paychecks to buy art supplies. What a scandal in this country that we have that situation.
Yeah, or you've got that one kid in the class whose family is struggling or maybe even homeless.
Right.
So they can't afford to, get that pack of notebook paper and the crayons and, whatever.
Or clean clothes.
That too.
Yeah, there's a lot of schools now that have washers and dryers and clothes closets at the school to help kids, which is wonderful. But we also just need to support those families more. They're part of our community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, that's things we need to work on. And it's like America's supposed to have the best roads in the world.
I don't know. I was just in Spokane and those roads are pretty bad. I was glad to get out of there.
Yeah, Spokane is special.
Spokane is special.
Yeah, they just need to rename it to Pothole.
Okay, yeah.
But, I nearly broke the axle on my truck going through Spokane
one
time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically just a patchwork. It's a crazy quilt of patches of asphalt, basically.
Yeah, but you would think with the investment that was made in the interstate system following World War II.
Oh yeah.
That would have continued and kind of expanded into the cities, so that the cities could improve their roads. Because a lot of I've been in some cities where the roads haven't been touched since 1960.
Sure. Yeah.
So they're...
Sometimes you can, in the older cities, like in the East Coast or Upper Midwest, you can see the cobbles underneath of the old roads.
Yeah.
When it was like horse and buggy and shit.
Or the asphalt has degraded so much that it's essentially just, kind of grayish colored gravel.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you would think that America would have continued investing in that to maintain our roads, and as an extension of that, like bulletproofed, like the FAA and stuff. It's like, look at that mess they had. What was that, Seattle?
I don't know.
Basically, it completely shut down airports because the tracking software basically crashed.
Okay.
So
making that more robust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're working on a system that is decades old.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's so weird because Boeing is there and all kinds of stuff like that.
But that's not the only time it's happened. I mean, it's happened in other cities too.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we need to invest more in infrastructure in this country.
Yeah.
And it's not just passenger traffic either. Mm-hmm. It's like airplanes are important for transportation. They're also important for the military.
For freight.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that is happening with our airports. Intermodal, on trains, on trucks, and then also on planes, that sort of thing.
And, something else needs to be worked on. It's like our tax money is there for the, for the transportation budget. It's like, why don't we have a high-speed bullet train system like every other country on the planet?
Yeah, especially in these corridors where they know they need it.
Yeah, it's like, why isn't there a high-speed train that goes from New York City to Los Angeles or from D.C. to San Francisco?
Or even just Portland to Seattle,
They were kind of half-assed working on that, but, that accident they had a few years ago where the train derailed, that kind of killed all of that.
Okay.
So, because automatic braking system that they put on it, it was supposed to slow it down.
Okay, well, get the engineers on that, Yeah, or LA to the Bay Area, etc. I mean, there's so many.
Or a high-speed train that goes from Seattle to San Diego and stops in all the major cities.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, China is way ahead of us on that.
Yeah.
Japan. I mean,
hell, even Europe.
Yeah.
If you pull up a map of Europe, there's hundreds of rail lines going through Europe.
Right. Yeah.
So.
I know we seem so far behind. We're still kind of in the Wild West in a way. It's almost like we take pride in that, which is terrible because we're behind. We're behind. Anyway, let's get back to you for a second. You have some herbal books here, and I had you pull them out because I noticed you were talking a little bit about herbal medicine, and you actually make some herbal medicine too. Yeah. Can you show that, please?
One of the big things that I do a lot of every year is medicinal elderberry syrup for myself, my neighbors, my friends.
Right. And that's like a respiratory thing, right?
You can use it as either immunity booster, by limited intake once a day to, kind of like taking your vitamin C pill.
Sure. Sure. I've even seen it in Costco. I've seen elderberry syrup.
Or you'll see the commercial Sambucol,
right,
or Sambucus and other stuff.
Sure.
Commercial thing, but that is kind of bottom of the barrel.
Sure,
it's very light duty. And
so this is the good stuff.
This is the good stuff.
I smelled it, and it definitely smells medicinal.
But it can be used as a cough syrup too. So if you have that tickle in the back of your throat,
sure.
This will take,
Yeah, you said you put some cherry bark in there too.
Wild cherry bark, feverfew, elderflower, elderberry.
Okay. All the good stuff.
The elderflower also makes it fairly effective against seasonal allergies.
Okay.
Along with the local honey.
Okay. All in one. There you go. That's all you need.
But yeah, I've got my Bibles, my references.
Yeah.
So
cool. I noticed some local ones too, like some mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A kind of quick guide that you can throw in your pocket. So
right.
Because there are some plants that are very different from region to region, but they look very similar. Some are toxic, some are not.
You have to watch out for that with fungi as well.
Yes. Yeah. Fungi are the worst.
Yeah, sometimes people will come here from other countries and they will pick mushrooms to eat, and then they have a toxic reaction to them. Yeah.
Well, it's like people who will pick horse apples thinking that they're puffball mushrooms. Start
with the puffball again.
Sorry. All right, so people will pick pick horse apple mushrooms, thinking that they're puffballs, and they're not, because they don't know what to look for.
Okay.
And the same goes for even morels, because there's false morels, and then there's brain mushrooms.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's kind of morel season up in interior Alaska, and people are just picking them like crazy.
Yeah, and if you're not checking every single one of them, it only takes one toxic mushroom to ruin that entire bucket.
And to kill your liver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or you.
Yeah. Well, when you kill your liver, you're killing you.
Yeah. No, I mean, liver transplant, maybe.
Sure.
If they get to it in time. But, like here we have 2 different types of actual morels. We've got the dark brown kind of chocolate morel, and we also have the blonde, which is kind of a really light tan color. But then we also have brain mushrooms, which essentially look like a deformed morel. It still has the same kind of furled outside, but it's solid inside instead of being completely hollow, like a morel. And
so I'm assuming that if you're going to go collect some mushrooms, you should go with somebody who's an expert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's basically been doing it their entire life.
Right. Because they're still alive after doing it for a long time.
Correct. Yeah, it's like every time I pick a puffball mushroom out of my yard, because I mean, they're all over the backyard several times a year. I double check to make sure it's perfectly ID'd, because there are a few of the toxic ones that pop up now and again. So I make sure I go through the checklist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I've had them grow literally right next to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I even once tried to pick something and I thought it was dandelion, but it was something else. I mean, that's a really common thing. You would think you would be able to recognize dandelion, but there are some plants that are not dandelion that are just like it, but they don't have that latex in it. They don't have the white, waxy kind of milky syrup inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there are different types of dandelions that are usually classified as such, but aren't.
Yeah.
So they have different properties.
Yeah, right. And just because a bird eats something doesn't mean it's safe for you.
And just because the bear can eat that berry doesn't mean you can.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Snowberries, you see birds eat those all year long. But don't you go eating it.
Okay.
That'll make you wish you had never touched a berry in your life.
Okay, that sounds unpleasant. So here we are in this beautiful house of yours, which when I pulled up, I was surprised at how big it was, actually, because I was expecting like a little cabin, like, or whatever, like the one that I had that was like 12 by 12 or 10 by 12, something like that. And it was really pretty small. It was just one room. It was basically the size of your little area right here. But this place is huge. Tell me a little bit about it and where are you going with it? Because this is kind of your life now.
Yeah. The original part of the house, which is what I live in, was kind of built as a cabin style with a big open kind of great room feel.
Okay.
And then gradually modified.
Yeah, you do have a loft here.
Yeah, and I do have a loft. But part of it has been expanded and walled off to form basically like a master suite upstairs, minus the bathroom.
Yeah, well, that's very useful since you do have wood heat here. So an open plan where the heat rises to where you're going to sleep is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the walled off is completely insulated, so that way I can regulate the heat more, and I have vents. So if I need more heat, I just open the vents.
And that's your art studio up there.
Yeah. So that's this side of the house. It was built, somewhere around 1990, maybe. Nobody's really sure because
I was surprised how new it looked too. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody's quite sure when this part of the house was truly built, because that was there was a period around here where building permits weren't a thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The only thing they can kind of go on is when the well was dug.
Okay.
And when the property was subdivided off of a much bigger property.
Sure, right.
And then best guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a lot of properties like that in Fairbanks too.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little sketchy.
Yeah. And then the other half of the house, which is kind of a guest quarters, was built around 2000.
Okay.
Nobody's quite sure exactly when.
Why did you expand, by the way?
I did not expand.
Oh, you didn't expand.
No.
Okay.
No. The original house was the first thing built here, other than the shop out there.
Which is pretty big as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this was an off-grid homestead. And the folks who started out here were kind of like the original crunchy preppers. I'll just put it that way.
So hippie preppers or?
Basically, yeah.
Great. I love them, actually.
Well, I mean, you saw the old farm equipment that's over in the pumpkin patch.
Sure.
They actually use those on this property.
Okay.
So
awesome.
And
Back to the lander
Yep.
types. Yeah.
So there was that, and then the next owner who had it before me, they're the ones who added on the other half. But they also had, there was a husband, a wife, a mother-in-law, an adult son.
Okay.
So they needed to have more bedrooms because there was only 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So
So for you're getting like a roommate, which is cool.
Or I can use it. I can use it as an income property at some point. Like I could turn it into, like a Airbnb.
Yeah. Well, I was joking as I came up here that this is the mountain B&B or something. Like Yeah. Because I mean, you've been so generous. Feeding me and letting me sleep in this sweet bed over here. That's like. It's like this tall. Actually, my dog had trouble jumping up on it, and he's a long dog. He's a tall dog, and he had trouble jumping up on it.
Yeah, well, that's because it's a high platform, so that way I can store underneath it.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So I've got emergency supplies underneath there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
what are your plans here? Because I see that you're kind of repainting, and
basically get everything finished, painted how I want, put up the trim, still replace a few windows that I haven't gotten to yet, and maybe eventually change the siding because I really, really, really dislike vinyl siding.
Oh, really? Okay. Is it trapping moisture in there?
It's not. No, it's not the moisture. It's the you can hear it rattle whenever the wind picks up.
Okay. All right. I know for some people they have had moisture problems behind siding.
Yeah, if your house wrap is done right, there's no moisture.
Okay, great.
Which mine is actually done right.
Great.
No, I was going to change it out to the precast concrete log siding.
Okay. I don't know what that is.
It's basically you've kind of seen the knocked together log homes that are, or all the logs are the exact same size.
Yes.
Basically, they do that, but they do it with a lightweight concrete.
Okay.
And it completely fireproofs your home.
Okay.
So I was going to do that because then I get the log cabin look.
Okay.
And my house is fireproof.
Okay.
As long as it's not like raging inferno.
Yeah.
But do that and
well, it sounds like you have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
And you just have little things that you're adding all over the place. I can tell. Yeah, and there's some bare walls too because you're kind of you're putting up new interior. Was it gypsum board
drywall
and painting and I mean. I'm quite envious because I'm this kind of person where I would get into projects like this. Like I would really go deep. Yeah. It's fun. So fun.
Probably one of the hardest was the ceiling. That is all the boards on the ceiling are original to the house.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Beautiful wood up there.
And I pulled down the entire ceiling.
How did you do that?
It's really easy.
Okay.
Basically just hook a pry bar on one end, give it a good yank. The whole thing comes down 16 feet at a time.
All right. Did you refinish the boards or something?
Yeah, I put them through a planer.
Okay.
And then ran them through a joiner and table saw to standardize their width.
Okay.
And also to make them shiplap so they overlap and lock together.
Okay.
Instead of basically just the raw edge butted.
So that's very similar to your little boxes and stuff.
Basically, just on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
So that's my big plans. I mean,
and it sounds like you want to build some also some furniture too. Like some shelving and that sort of thing?
Yeah, some bookshelves. There are a few places in the house where I'd actually have built-in bookshelves. Where I had an oddball space that it didn't make sense to have, like you walk in a door and then there's, juts back this way randomly for 2 feet.
Sure.
So I put a big, built-in bookcase. Sure. Over on the other side of the house, there's several places where there's inset built-ins, so you can put up your little random knickknacks.
Sure. Your big fucking knife over there. That kind of thing, knickknacks.
That's my version of a knickknack.
A bear skull.
I'm talking things like like mom's little music box,
or figurines and stuff. Yeah, totally.
Picture of grandma.
Okay. So you do have some of that up as well, which is sweet. Yeah.
My parents when they were my parents when they were let's see, the one of my dad, he was 16. The one of my mom, that was I think she was 11 or 12 in that picture. Great. So great. And then the other one's the farm I grew up on.
Great. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, wonderful. I'm so happy to be here in your house. I love coming to people's houses. That's one of the big pleasures of this project, actually, is I get to see people in place, even if they have humble circumstances. Like yours is definitely not humble circumstances. This is pretty glorious. But, sometimes people have humble circumstances. And I want to say that I so appreciate the invitation to come into people's places, even if they are in poverty and are living in humble circumstances. But thank you so much for having me in your home. This is kind of a longer interview, and I just feel like we've been talking for a while, and I just love it. I think you're great, and I keep wondering if we knew each other at some point.
It's very possible.
Yeah,
because we were chit chatting.
Yeah, because I lived in Seattle and I lived in Portland. Yeah, and I'd been through Ole for a few times.
Yeah, and we talked about different events we've been at. Yeah, and there's a possibility we at least were like ships passing in the night.
Right.
So,
that's right. So. And we transitioned around the same time. Yeah. And I definitely know about the Lesbian Avengers. I didn't go to any of their events, but I was in Lilith's Revenge, which was an anarchist group. Yeah, totally. Yeah. It was less focused on sexuality, although we were very queer. We were definitely very queer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. It's so nice to talk to a peer too. I feel like we're peers, right? Yep. We're getting that gray in there.
Yeah, I got a little more than you do, I think.
Yeah. And you have a ton of hair too. Woo! Look at that. Look at that silver mane there. Yeah. Woo! That's like a lion's mane. Yeah, I got nothing up here. I got Yul Brynner, Mr. Clean. That's okay though. I love Yul Brynner. Anyway, thank you so much again. And thank you for letting me stay the night again and just enjoying the mountaintop here. Tomorrow I'll be in Montana and I'll be talking to a couple ranchers, which is also exciting. And then I'm off to Canada. All right. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for listening. All right. From the Rocky Mountain West. All right. Cool.